Hello, everyone. My name's Ryan Clifford. I guess I'm your newest voice on the K and K podcast. Doing something a little different than what the K and K podcast usually does, and we're going to talk some NHL hockey and primarily the New Jersey Devils. It's been a interesting start here so far for New Jersey. I guess the biggest takeaway so far of the season, unfortunately, has been the injury bug. Despite that, the Devils are sitting pretty at the first place in the Eastern Conference, tied with the Carolina Hurricanes. You got Dougie Hamilton, who missed some time. You got Cody Glass missing time. You got Evgeny Dodonov, who played just one period before returning last night. Connor Brown missed some time. Jonathan Kovacevic, you knew was going to be out until at least mid-January, hopefully before the Olympic break. Um, Brett Pesce with a hand injury. Believe he broke his hand blocking a shot against the Colorado Avalanche a couple weeks ago. Who had a great start to the year, but then the big bomb dropped on last Friday. Jack Hughes, obviously the franchise player, arguably the face of the organization, went down with a non-contact injury. Is really one of the most unbelievable things a fan can experience. Apparently, the reports came out that he put his hand down on a table and there was a broken glass and it must have pierced the skin, went through it. And when it first came out, I'm sure the Devils brass and fans included were just hoping it was going to be this minor injury and, maybe miss a game or two and then get it stitched up and that would be that. You find out the next day that he was flown to New York City to a hand specialist, and he underwent surgery, and he'll be out the next 2 months, which is not unfamiliar territory for the Devils. Obviously, last year, after a hot start, they kind of limped through January and mid-February before Hughes went down with a broken shoulder that he had to get surgically repaired and ended his season. And they went on to go to the playoffs, and they were just a shell of themselves. Um, Now, the positives, you're hoping that it's about 30 games, which is, of course, a lot of games, which would put Jack Hughes' season down to 52 games. But with a hot start, you got to hope they somehow survive this stretch because the Devils this year are a deeper team than last year. This is a team that has aspirations of, you know, going on to the Eastern Conference playoffs and not just playing a few games and getting bounced by Carolina. They're hoping to make some noise and get deep and get in a playoff run and hopefully challenge for a Stanley Cup. But if last night was any indication of what we're going to see from the Devils the next 2 months, that's not going to happen. Last night was pretty much a nightmare of a game, and a game where it's hard to even say that Tampa Bay was the better team. I think the Devils were. They came out in the first period. They got the Donoff back. They got Hamilton back. They got Connor Brown back, which was much needed depth because Saturday night's lineup featured the Utica Comets lineup, which is the Devils' AHL affiliate. For those that don't know, the Devils needed desperately some kind of depth back, and went into the game, and Devils got the first two power plays, and they missed Jack Hughes desperately on the power play. They couldn't even gain the blue line. They sloppy. But they weren't out of the game. I thought they were outplaying Tampa Bay, and Dawson Mercer made a lackadaisical pass. I'm not really sure what the mindset was. Kind of entered the zone, uh, went to pass it back to Meyer, but went off the boards instead. And Jake Getzel, who later had a hat trick in the game, just completely took over, and which led me to my next point, which was going to be that something's wrong with Jacob Markstrom, and that's something that's pretty much going to derail the Devil season if it doesn't get fixed. Jacob Markstrom was brought in 2 seasons, no, not this past summer, the one before, and he was supposed to be the answer in net. The Devils, a previous season, were cup contenders, but were held back by goaltending, which honestly has been the case since. I mean, it's funny to laugh. I talk about with my brother all the time that it's almost like the curse of Marty Brodeur. They can't find one since him. They had Corey Schneider, but they didn't have the roster to go around him. They were getting off having Vitek Vanacek, Akira Schmid played some games, the playoff hero from a couple years ago. Jacob Markstrom was brought in to be, the final answer in net, at least temporarily, while you hope some of the goalie prospects pan out. Nico Dawes, Mikhail Yagorov at Boston University. But Jacob Markstrom this season, he's got 8 starts, at least 7 of them he's allowed 3, which included an 8-goal blitzing by the Colorado Avalanche, and obviously he battled injury earlier in the year. You're hoping he's healthy, and if he's not, it might be time to give the net to Jake Allen for the next, I don't know, week and a half, week or two, and only really play Markstrom on a back-to-back because you have to. But it's been a struggle of a year, and again, you can argue the Devils are going to go as far as Jack Hughes takes them. They're truly not going to go only as far as Jacob Markstrom and Jake Allen are going to take them. I think that's been an issue with the team for years now. And yes, we're missing guys on defense, but last night you kind of saw, like, man, what's Markstrom doing out there? You kind of saw it in Chicago, but it was masked by a hat trick by Nemitz. Every goal Markstrom allowed in that game, you found yourself thinking, like, what is he doing? He doesn't even look right. But no one really talked about it until last night when the result that it was a 5-1 loss. You're kind of looking around for answers, and it's easy to just be like, oh, they're off because of Jack Hughes. No, that's a team they can still beat. I mean, you still have a decent roster, and it's going to be the roster you have, with the exception of a few guys that should come back in sometime in the next month. But Markstrom, I think, if you don't mind me 1 sec, just going to look up his, save percentage. And I know it's not all about, save percentage and goals against, but his goals against is 383. Little under 4. I mean, that's just not good enough. I don't care if, Jack Hughes was healthy and, the Devils are scoring 5 a game and winning games 5-4. It's not sustainable. His save percentage is 864, which puts him basically near the bottom of the league with qualifying goaltenders. But it's something to worry about. I mean, Markstrom is in the final year of his contract up until Halloween night when it was announced that the Devils re-signed him. And I remember getting the notification that they signed him, and it was kind of like, okay, that's good. It's only a 2-year deal, but $6 million. I mean, I'm sure fans of other sports were like, oh, it's only $6 million. Well, in hockey, it's a hard cap. Every penny matters. The Devils are a cap team right now. They're playing cap gymnastics just to ice a lineup with injuries. But it seems like, I hate to use the word premature, but you got to hope that, this isn't the Jacob Markstrom we're going to get on that 2-year, $12 million deal, because you're pretty much handicapping a team that should be on the rise, and that $6 million could obviously be allocated anywhere else on in the lineup. I mean, we still have holes in the lineup even when fully healthy. Like, who's the wing next to Hughes and Bratt? Palat can't be the guy for more than a couple of years. But Jacob Markstrom is going to be a part of this team no matter what. And you got to hope he's healthy. And if he's not healthy, you kind of look at Devils management like, it's, you can't play through this. It's you got Nico Dawes in the AHL, who fortunately we kept when he was on waivers, but he came in for a game this year when Markstrom was out a couple games and played well. Devils on a back-to-back when the game Nico Dawes played, and they won. I think it was 4-1 against Minnesota. So it's it's obviously an overreaction to one game. The Devils are sitting at 13-5-1. They're first place in the Eastern Conference. Of course, it could be worse, but it's hard after watching what happened to them last year when Hughes went down to watch a game like that last night. It's obviously very, very, very discouraging. But I don't want to be all negative. It's kind of how can the Devils, survive the stretch without Jack Hughes? And I think Fitzgerald this summer he went out and addressed the much needed depth that this Devils lineup needed. Last year we had Tomas Tatar, Nathan Bastian, Justin Dowling played entirely too many games than he should have. Nothing against him. He played well in his role, but it just it forced other guys to play up in the lineup. And you saw the Palat and Nason, and are all they're role players. They should at this point of their careers they should be on the third line. Only moved up in an emergency, and I get it. The Devils were dealing with an emergency, but yeah, I mean, it starts with that first line. It's got to be Nico Hischier, obviously the captain. He's the heartbeat of the Devils, even when Jack Hughes is in the lineup. Jack Hughes isn't going to, log the minutes that Nico Hischier is going to in the defensive zone to close out games on the penalty kill. And, between him, Brett, and probably one of the polarizing is a strong word when I describe Timo Meyer. Timo Meyer obviously was the big trade deadline acquisition in the 2023 season. Was brought in to be this 40 goal scorer. That was the one thing the Devils lacked. They needed that surefire. He's going to put 35 to 40 pucks in the net every single year. You had Bratt, you had Hischier, you had Hughes, but I'm sure the player type, they're pass first guys who can score, but you needed that finisher, and that's what Timo Meyer was supposed to be. Obviously, the year came to us, he was on pace for 40 goals. He reached 40 goals eventually with the Devils. He came over midseason, and that led Tom Fitzgerald, general manager, to ink him to a 8.8 mil, which was more than Hughes. Which there was rumors that the Devils had an internal, belief that no one's going to make more than Hughes. Bratt took less, but Meyer pushed for more. He got it, and I don't think it's unfair to say that. You just haven't seen enough from Timo Meyer in the 2.5 years now he's been a Devil. His goal scoring is just not there. I think he doesn't show that finishing, the finisher's mentality. You see the amount of scoring chances he gets a game. I mean, it's plenty. But I always tell my friends, there's like a highlight reel for Timo Meyer of should have been goals with the Devils. I mean, he when he's snake bitten, he's snake bitten. There's no breaking it. But every year it's been the same thing back to back years now. It's he goes through stretches. When he's hot, he's hot. And when he's cold, unfortunately, he can't do anything. And I think he was hindered the first year with Lindy Ruff. I think Lindy Ruff played him way out of his role. I think Sheldon Keefe tried to reignite him, and he starts out hot most of the time, and then in the middle of the season, he kind of just, he gets by. He's a physical player. That's something the Devils need. But I think, this stretch of 30 games, if there's a player that needs to get his, goal scoring, and he's going to get plenty of power play one time. He's in last night in the role, not in the same role Hughes was, but in his spot, and they had to readjust. He's got to get going. This is a guy that the Devils need to rely on. Brett, you're going to get from he's a point per game guy. He plays very similar to Hughes, but they complement each other so well. And that's probably your first line for the most part, unless Sheldon Keefe, wants to spread out the wealth and line up. I can see it, but when you need a goal and you're down in the third period, that's probably the three guys you're looking at. But you knew that. I mean, there's other guys, Dawson Mercer um, has been great this year for the Devils in his role. Obviously, a struggle of a year last year, missed training camp last year, and then kind of slowed his way into the year, and his point production was down. He kind of just, I don't know if the word lost was um, the right word, but I think he just took a while to find his game. And obviously, coming in this year, a clean slate. He's got 2 years left on his deal. I think he's been everything you wanted Dawson Mercer to be. His first 2 years in the league, at or over 50 points. I mean, that's exactly what you wanted. The 18th overall pick back in 2020, the COVID year draft. He's been great for the Devils. They prefer him on the wing, but with Hughes out, they got to put him down the middle. He'll be the second line center. At least until Cody Glass comes back, then you can kind of shift some things. Maybe put Mercer back on the wing where they prefer him. I know the Heischer Mercer Meyer line was great for the Devils the first 10 games. It kind of fizzled out, kind of lost their scoring touch, but it's something they can revisit. Mercer's going to be another guy in the power play. There's players in New Jersey. I forgot to mention, rookie Arseny Gritsyuk, the 24-year-old Russian. People really weren't sure what to expect from him. The Devils have gone down the route before of signing a guy from Russia, and it hasn't always panned out. Nikita Gusev, that's the first one that comes to mind. 2019, he had a solid first year of the Devils, but then it was clear he didn't belong in the NHL ice. He went back to KHL, but Arseny Gritsyuk seems like they found something in him. He was the same year as I believe Hughes was the first overall that year, 2019, and so I think Gritsyuk was a fourth or fifth round pick. Finally brought him over, played 3 years in the KHL, at or near a point per game each one of those years, and the Devils want to see what they had in him, put him on the NHL ice, and now, I mean, you see last night he's up with the big boys, Heischer and Meyer, so Keefe's going to give him a lot of freedom now. I mean, they need it. They need someone to kind of not put the team on their back, but someone to step up. That's what you're going to have to find in the next 30 games until these 2 months are over. It's obviously a very, as a Devils fan, you do worry. It's not like something we can just sit here and say, it's fine. We had a hot start. These 30 games will go, and then there's no guarantee that this team's going to be, anything like it was during the 8-game win streak to start the year, because there's no evidence. The only evidence you have is last year after the Christmas break. One of the hottest teams in hockey just completely fell off. I mean, even with Hughes healthy, they fell off, and they never regained any momentum they had in the beginning of the year. Not really sure what happened. But and then they lost Hughes. So on top of everything, and they squeaked into the playoffs in a year where points were down. So Devils can't rely on this hot start. They got to keep pushing, which brings me to another thing I wanted to discuss was is there anything they can do to kind of mitigate the loss of Hughes? And I guess there's the trade route. Now here's where it's tricky because obviously, they're, like I mentioned before, they're a cap team. Jonathan Kovacevic, his $4 million he makes is on the long-term injured reserve. So people that don't know what the LTIR is, he is on the Devils roster, but his cap, because he's injured, is not counting against their cap, and the Devils are right up against it. There are rumors in the offseason that they were looking into dishing away a guy like Mercer, maybe save some cap, but they got rid of Eric Holla to save some cap. Obviously, replace that cap with the Donoff and Connor Brown coming in, but I just don't know how realistic it is unless it gets to a point where the Devils drop. Maybe, let's say they drop the next 10 games in a row, complete free fall. That's when you could see some kind of, management move where they would consider bringing in someone. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Tom Fitzgerald isn't going to make uproot this season for um, you know just because an injury. I think uh, I could be wrong, but I think he wants these 30 games. He wants to just survive these next 30, and which is the amount of games Hughes will miss. But in order to make a trade and free up money, you'd have to trade a guy like Andre Palat, which he's making 6 million. Um, he gets a bad rep from the fan base. He was a signing in 2023 in the offseason, coming off, obviously, he's a future Hall of Famer, borderline, two-time Stanley Cup champ, great Tampa Bay Lightning. But the Devils have gotten the worst of, the Andre Palat career, but he's taking up a whole lot of cap room. There was rumors that possibly Fitzgerald was looking to get rid of him in the offseason, but couldn't find a team to take him. Like Palat's a guy that you'd have to attach a pick to send to a team, like a second round pick and Palat to a team for future considerations, just for a team to take him. But even then, the other issue would be, all right, then mid February, or maybe who knows when Kovacevic is ready to return. Then you got to bring Kovacevic back. His 4 million comes back onto the books, which is no problem if Palat was gone. Then you still got 2 million to work with. So really, something has to give. Obviously, there's the rumor that has circulated the Devils for 2 years now, ever since Luke Hughes broke into the NHL and Vancouver struggled. There's people want the third Hughes brother, Quinn Hughes, on the Devils, which obviously the Devils have a $9 million right shot defenseman, Dougie Hamilton, who was one of the only free agents to ever choose New Jersey. And obviously, it's not a huge market like New York. It's not Florida. It's not Vegas. It's not Toronto, the big market teams, but he chose to come to New Jersey. And there's going to be rumors around Dougie Hamilton's name for the foreseeable future. Whether or not the Devils are willing to go that route, I don't know. It's tough for me because I think Dougie's still a very capable player when he's healthy. Obviously, the first year we had him, he broke franchise records with points for a defenseman by guys like Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermayer, legends. And obviously, since then, he hasn't played a full season, which is against him. But again, that power play looks way different with Dougie Hamilton on it than with Luke Hughes on it. I don't think teams respect Luke Hughes' shot. I think teams have to respect Dougie's shot. Dougie's defensive game has always been his, not kryptonite, obviously. He's a capable defenseman, but it hasn't always been his best. I think you have to, before you're ready to dish Dougie Hamilton off, you have to make sure there's a replacement in place. And obviously this year you saw Simone Nemitz in the past week really come in a much expanded role. And obviously it's very weird to say, he's having a breakout past week as a defenseman by scoring goals. When the Devils drafted him second overall, you knew what kind of offensive talent he had. It was just about being a young right-handed defenseman who was still under 23 years old. Like, is he capable in his own defensive end? So, I don't really know. It's tough when the Devils now have a logjam, which I think it's better to have a logjam on the defensive side of things between you go Luke Hughes, Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon, Dougie Hamilton, Siegenthaler, Nemitz, and Kovacevic. And then you have Seamus Casey, who's looking to break into a full-time role at some point on defense, who the Devils experimented with when the injuries came about, and be honest, didn't look good at all. So he's in the AHL getting much bigger minutes than sitting in the press box in New Jersey, which is probably the best thing for his development as a young defenseman. Um, but back to my original point, the Devils, they have to get creative if they want to make any kind of trade, and who are guys that are available. I mean, you look at the rumors out there now, or Ryan O'Reilly from Nashville. If Nashville continues to struggle, which um, great would fit great in the third line center role, and then you can kind of push Cody Glass down to the fourth line. Like it's then when you're at full health, it's Hughes, Heischer, O'Reilly, Glass. Um, I mean, I would assume in that situation, the Devils would have to, get rid of one of Palat, or just move money around. It's hockey's it's a hard cap. It's a very hard cap. You don't really know um, whether or not the Devils are willing to you know fork up assets and also give up assets, in a separate deal to move room, to move money. But the Devils are in a very, very weird situation. I know this stream is very, doom and gloom for the first one, but that's kind of the current state of the Devils. It's going to be an interesting, you know, I guess 28 games remain, in the 8 week stretch that he was supposed to be out. And I know it's, some other fan bases might, mock us for talking about like just surviving 30 games because you're missing one player, but the Devils haven't proven otherwise. So I'd love to be want to come on here next week. Hopefully, I'm talking about a Devils team that caught fire, and they're not just surviving, they're thriving without Hughes, and that's the perfect world. But you don't know what's going to happen. The NHL season's they always say NHL season's a huge roller coaster. One week you're up, one week you're down, one week you're up, one week you're down, down, up. It's crazy, but it's an 82 game just grind, and Devils are up against it now. Hopefully last night's a game you just throw behind you. You move on to tomorrow night against Florida, the Stanley Cup champs. And the schedule is not going to get easy. There's no easy game in the NHL anymore. So um, that'll just about do it. I apologize for any problems with this stream. I hope anyone watching enjoyed it. It's my first one, so hopefully just continue to get better, and appreciate you watching.